What's up, guys? I'm Dr. Gabrielle Lyon here with my longtime mentor and best friend, Dr. Donald Lehman. And today we're going to talk to you a little bit about cholesterol. I recently made a post in IG that talked about cholesterol, and it really got a lot of heat because I actually eat 5 eggs for breakfast. And it's really interesting. People still believe that the dietary cholesterol you eat make a huge impact on your blood level cholesterol. And in fact, Donna and I were just talking that in 2015, the dietary guidelines dropped their cholesterol recommendations. They no longer felt that cholesterol was an issue in terms of dietary ingestion. And I just want to point out that in 1984, the Surgeon General has suggested that we decrease our intake of cholesterol, and it went from 700 to below 300. And the thought was that if you reduce your dietary cholesterol from 700 to below 300, that they would eradicate heart disease. But none of that happened. So again, we're talking about a false narrative, and this one really dies hard. So we are 6 years later, people still believe that the cholesterol that you are ingesting in your diet and that you should reduce your dietary cholesterol impacts blood cholesterol. So Don, I'm gonna just have you talk about this and just take it away.
Yeah, it really is a theory that dies hard. I think it's useful to realize where the theory came from. And if you look back in the, sort of ancient history, back into the 70s, there was what's known as the 7-country study, Ansel Keys, and there's also what's known as the Framingham study. Ansel Keys sort of notoriously believed that cholesterol caused heart disease. And so he surveyed a lot of countries, 21 in fact, and unfortunately for him, found no association with at all with heart disease. And so then he began cherry picking until he found 7 of the countries that gave him the line he wanted. And so
hence the 7-country study.
Have a 7-country study, even though he had 21. And then there's the Framingham study, which was always pointed to, but it's important to recognize that they found a lot of relationships to heart disease, genetics, smoking, obesity, and way down the line was cholesterol. And cholesterol, basically, of the people who got heart disease, only 48% actually had high cholesterol. So the majority didn't. So, that was the sort of the issue of it. The thing about cholesterol in the heart, in the blood, is that what we know is long-term, blood cholesterol is basically set by genetics, first and foremost. We produce it in the liver. Cholesterol would actually be an essential nutrient, except for the fact that we produce it in our liver. Enzyme called HMG-CoA reductase is really critical on that. And the bottom line there is that the more you eat, the less you produce. And so the thing and the reality is we only absorb about 50% of what we eat. Right. So for example, just for easy numbers, if we were eating 400 milligrams per day, we actually need 1,000 milligrams. It's an essential nutrient at 1,000 milligrams per day. It's the structure of all of our cells. And so if we're eating 400, we absorb 200, that means the body makes 800. If you shift only, say, absorbing 200 or eating 200, now the body has to shift to making 900. Sometimes that takes a couple of weeks for the body to do it. So if you went out and sort of fed people a lot of eggs on one day that they're not used to eating, chances are you'll see an increase in their blood cholesterol for maybe a week or two. Right. Likewise, if you take someone who has a high cholesterol and you take cholesterol out of their diet, you might see a drop for a week or two, but it'll all then genetically come back as the liver readjusts. So the people, who have sort of fostered the cholesterol era, short-term changes will change blood cholesterol, but we know now that long-term changes, it all comes back to the same number, and that's really genetically set for each individual.
So I think that's
just sure you've seen it in your practice. We've seen it in the research lab. And if you do a short-term study that's maybe a month long, you'll see an effective diet on cholesterol. But if you follow it again at 4 months, you'll find out that eating exactly the same thing is back to the same, the normal number. So you'll see short-term changes, but they simply don't mean anything.
I would love for you to mention a little bit about insulin and cholesterol. So we're talking about what we've been talking about really is just mentioning the dietary cholesterol, and that there is a set point that the dietary consumption of cholesterol and then the blood results, or the cholesterol in the blood is really largely genetically set. However, insulin and cholesterol, there's a whole nother story there.
Yeah, so go back to what I said earlier. The body has an absolute requirement for about 1,000 milligrams of cholesterol per day. And we're lucky, basically, that our liver makes it. And so it's not essential in our diet because we can make all that we need. If we didn't make it, it would be it would just be like a vitamin. It would be something we had to have. But we can make it. And as I said, the body will adjust the amount. The key enzyme in the liver is called HMG-CoA reductase. And that is really the target for statin drugs, which everyone's probably heard about. Statins will reduce that enzyme and reduce your body's ability to make cholesterol. One of the other things that you were just referring to, Gabrielle, is that insulin actually stimulates that enzyme. And so we talk about changing blood cholesterol. Carbohydrate diets and high insulin will actually give you higher cholesterol than taking cholesterol in those 5 eggs. And so it's more of a carbohydrate and calorie issue than it is a dietary cholesterol. The other thing that I think is interesting, and some research that for many years, I was the director of research at the American Egg Board. So I funded a lot of cholesterol research, so sort of firsthand. There's a theory that as you know, and I know, there are a lot of side effects of taking statins.
Yes.
A lot of them with muscle health and pain. And there's a theory that one of the problems is statins are so effective at reducing cholesterol production that you're actually cholesterol deficient and you lose some of your hormone effects.
Yes.
Some of the sphingomyelins and things like that. And there's a theory that I think people should explore more, is that I think people taking statins should actually increase their egg consumption, because I think it's making cholesterol an essential nutrient.
That's interesting. I haven't really thought about that. It's actually really, really smart. And then, subsequently also think about the effect on the muscle.
Yeah.